The following items for discussion or possible action are, there's 6 of them. Finance stabilization plan, which I see the staff is actually working towards that. Number 2, consider new funding sources. Number 3, review service overlaps with other transit services. Number 4, review routes and schedules, which we are currently working on. Number 5, consider a joint venture strategies for service to NAS Whidbey Island and school districts for RCW 3657A10, line item 10, and that is, it's not the NASA Whidbey thing right out of the motion, or the RCW, but the school districts are and other agencies. And number 6, establish or changes in boundaries of public transportation benefit area for RCW 3657A030. And I have to look for a second for the discussion.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to place on our March 20th, 2015 board meeting the 6 items for board consideration. And I'm assuming that maybe you'll provide further information as to what you want on each one of these
Well,
things.
I'll speak to the motion now that it's been seconded. The finance stabilization plan should be a written plan that's available to the public. And in fact, that stabilization plan should address some of the things that Mr. Lauderdale talked about as we go forward, as the finance analyst looks at his monthly reports. If he's looking at those reports, we should be able to see those reports too on a monthly basis. And at a minimum, we should have a quarterly report that updates the budget and our cash flow analysis. Consider item number 2, consider new funding sources. There are opportunities, and I'm not going to speak to any specific one, but there could be considerations for rider fares, advertisement. I mean, we all have skin in this game, and so we need to take a look at those to ease the backside of our limited services at this time. Number 3, review service overlaps with other transit services, and you can say other transit districts. Quite frankly, in my observation, I see an awful lot of travel between our separated areas, like on Camino Island and this area, and going to Mount Vernon. And those miles in between could be miles that are used in our target areas and not necessarily going through overlaps with other services. As I travel in other parts of this state and in Europe, other countries, they have a scheduling system where it links just like we are trying to link here with our services. But their schedules mesh. You go to one station, the next service agency has a schedule that continues on, so that our riders have a kind of a seamless transition from agency to agency for the services. And that really falls into item number 4 for routes and schedules. We've already talked about that. There are some areas that when you look at even our budget for ridership in here that we have some areas where it's like on Camino, it's $16 to ride per passenger based on our own reports right now. There's certainly a way we can make that more efficient, as on this island we have $7 and some odd cents per rider. And then the other thing is, number 5 is consider joint venture strategies for services at NAS Whidbey in the school districts. And that is permitted by the RCWs to do that. And for example, with school districts, and I'm not speaking for the school districts, I do know that at one time there was a request from the school district for Island Transit to coordinate with the school districts for handicapped students to be delivered to schools where they don't have those services. We have paratransits in areas that could mesh with that, and that should be considered. I don't have an answer for it right now, but it certainly should be reviewed and considered. And then item number 6 is establish or change boundaries of public transportation benefit areas, and that is per RCWs also. And for example, we may want to work with Skagit Transit to maybe, if we are legally able to do that, to segregate off some of our expensive service areas to take part of their service areas that are more efficient for us. It makes it more efficient for them too. I see these overlaps as being an unnecessary expense, which is basically impacting our ability to serve people in Iowa County. So I've spoken to my motion.
Any further discussion?
So I seconded Mr. Albert's motion. Those are a lot of hefty conversations for one meeting, and I was wondering if Mr. Alberg might be willing to consider an amendment where maybe they're broken in half, or they're done over a course of 3 meetings, or at least at minimum we have them in March and April.
I would entertain a friendly motion to this to break it up, provided that we have the serious discussion and action on these topics by our meeting in June. You know, I want to get the ball rolling on these things and not just keep kicking the can down the road.
So, did you say you would agree to?
I would,
Or
anybody
what we
can
could-
make a friendly motion.
Yeah. Or what we could do would be to, we could start the discussion in March. If we didn't finish it all, the items, we could continue to the next board meeting, in April, and then.
That's fine. I agree with that.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I might interject to help with the timeline and some of the background research that we need to go into all these items. I'm thinking that maybe by the March meeting, staff put together, compile as much information as we can during that time period, maybe for each of these 6, to give you some background, maybe background information to work with, or findings that we come across in these particular areas, or because you're going to need to be caught up to speed on a lot of this stuff in terms of history or legalities and so on. So I don't know what kind of product we would present to you on the 20th, but I'm thinking if we can give you some substantial stuff for each one of these points to get the thinking moving along a little bit, maybe a little bit earlier, rather than just coming back and discussing with what we know right now around the table. But maybe in March we can come back with hopefully some additional useful information that could contribute towards the June decision.
But we don't have a motion for a final decision for discussion or possible action for June. But I would certainly, I want to get the conversation going.
Right.
And the motion is for discussion or possible action.
Okay.
That's the caveat that's in there. So I already noticed that part of this information is available, and some of it needs to maybe be a little tweaked, refined a little bit, but I don't think it's to any of our benefit to just kick the can down the road. And I know the public is really looking for confidence in what we are starting to do.
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody else have anything else to add as far as discussion?
Well, not just as the motion Mr. Alberg made is addressing many points that I had. You cut my work load. Because I had several of these points written on notes on myself that I wanted to bring up, so I support this. And with the caveat that we haven't completed it, simple actually by June. So if that needs an amendment to add the June timeline.
Well, you know, I don't want to squash that,
Yeah.
but I don't, some of these areas, we don't know what we're getting ourselves into.
Right.
And to put a deadline on it, I think we're cutting ourselves short. I think the board understands that we need to take some action, it's not business as usual. And these are obviously items that we've discussed before, we need to get serious on them, so.
My only reason for bringing that up is that I know Mr. Alberg is a man of action,
That's
if
right.
not do it yesterday action. So what I wanted to do was manage some expectations in terms of what's realistic for the timeline coming forward. But if he's comfortable that we'll have some action by June, then I think that might be as far as we're able to rein him in, so I'm comfortable with that.
I guess I would say also that one of the key issues here isn't desirability, but practicality of what we can accomplish in a short period of time. That's also been sort of my mantra for the past year, to try to find things that are practical in terms of implementation. So mapping out some goals, I think, is a great idea. Some of the practical implementation may take a long time, but I think we've already started on some of these items. And if we could sort of tick them off and then focus our energy on the next and the next, stepwise, I think I welcome the fresh energy that Rick Alberg is bringing to this proposal.
May I comment to that, Mr. Chairman? You know, we could, in the course of discussion in March 20, if the board passes this, you know, we could get to the stabilization plan and have a serious conversation about what the staff is able to do by a specific time. You know, I'm not setting times here for them to have something done now. I don't know, I'm new on this board. But I just know that, you know, this finance issue is, in my mind, number one, because there's a lot of things we can't do without having a stable financial program going. And considering new funding sources is another part of that stabilization plan. They tie together. So, you know, we can tick these things off and attach timelines to them at the time of our discussion. And we don't necessarily have to establish that now.
That makes very good sense.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented and amended, and friendly amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there anybody opposed? Thank you very much. We're still on board discussion?
To complete the discussion.
Any further board discussion?
Oh, I just had one other thing that I wanted to bring up for discussion, and I'm hoping this is the appropriate time, and this goes back to public comment by Mr. Lauderdale about accessibility to documents. If there is, you know, if we can get these, we came in this morning to a considerable packet, which is a large amount of information to digest in a short amount of time. And I would like to see the board, this member of the board, receive the documents. You know, the meetings are on Friday. If we can get the documents via email, my assistant, I'm sure, the assistant, whoever, our administrative staff will be willing to print them out for us. But I need time to at least digest what it is that we're looking at, be able to come in and have reasonably good input to the meeting. So, and if it's done that way via electronic media, then the public can go, because I know the commissioner meetings, you can go on there ahead of time, there's the agenda, you can click on the link, you know exactly what's going to be talked about, not just the meetings, but work sessions and everything else. And will probably make life a lot easier, so I would like to make a motion that we receive our packets minimum 2 days in advance.
What about by Tuesday for a Friday meeting?
That would even be better, because it gives us time, because it is a large amount of information to consider.
Here's the kicker, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to state that I didn't even get a treasurer's reconciliation from the county until Wednesday. So then I get that information, I have to reconcile, and it's approved by the finance committee, and prepare statements for this meeting on Friday. So I get it on Wednesday, worked with it, resolved the problem by Thursday, and then I was able to create that packet. So there's, we're connected to other systems that don't allow us to do that.
You know, we talked about moving our board meeting. If we can't get the financial information in time for us to take a look at, what's wrong with, and on a third Friday of the month, why don't we just move our meetings to the fourth Friday of the month? And then we, the financial people have got time to put the packets together. I don't know whether that's gonna cause problems with everybody else in their meeting schedule. But that has been kicked around before.
Is the delay or the timing from the county, see how I corrected that right there, is the timing from the county always always consistent? You get it on that same?
It's pretty consistent. Like by the 10th, I'm already contacting them and saying, can you please send this to me, and I'll get a response. It'll be coming on this date. So they have a, they're pretty heavily worked as well, so they're trying to get, a number of these statements, maybe 50 to 70 of them out to various agencies. And consistently, I'd say the timing this month is pretty typical.
So if we were to move the meeting to the fourth Friday, then we'll place the third, what I'm hearing you say is we'd be able to have the reports.
I think, then it would at least probably give a week between when we do that reconciliation and generate the reports and get them out. I think it,
And we get them on a Tuesday or something like that, we could look at them before Friday, if you honestly will look at them.
I honestly look at
No,
them.
I look at them.
I have no problem with moving the meeting to the fourth Friday, because I keep Fridays open for mail hours 3 weeks out of the month, so I would just shift, instead of being here on the third Friday, I'd be over there and here.
I think the commissioners have a tighter schedule than the rest of us. The fourth Friday is the same for me.
We're gonna cause any problems anywhere else?
The fourth Friday
You can do
works
it.
for me also. However, would it be better to have it on a Thursday so that you're not tying in with a weekend where people, especially during the holiday periods and whatnot, are trying to get out of town on Fridays? Does it make any difference if it's a Thursday?
Yeah, Thursdays.
Third, without even looking at my calendar, I can tell you that Thursday doesn't work.
Okay, I go with Friday.
Yes, because we've got 23, 24 different committees and councils and boards we're on. And most of the meetings are held to Wednesdays and Thursdays.
I'm down to 15, actually.
You're down to 15?
I
You
uploaded
downloaded
some
one?
on you, so.
Oh, thank you.
What do you think?
Benefit of tenure.
That's right.
Doesn't, I don't think it makes a difference to us one way or the other. Paul, you're comfortable with the fourth Friday?
Yeah, I think it would make that, providing that material sooner and easier task.
Oh, that would be great then. I will amend my motion, or shall I?
Well, I was going to point out, so a procedural thing, which is, I'm from the land of bureaucracy.
Right.
So you made a motion that doesn't have a second, and now we're talking about changing Friday days. So we need to either rescind and start over, or finish one up and then,
Well, if there
I
is,
withdraw my motion.
I would, and then we're
I
just
will
clean.
withdraw my
instead.
okay, the
motion.
motion's been withdrawn,
There you go.
and you'd like to make another motion though, I hear.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we move our monthly meeting for Allen Transit to the fourth Friday of the month by the third, which will give finance time to get us our reports, so that we receive them minimum 2 days in advance.
So,
Been moved and seconded to move the Island Transit monthly board meeting from the third Friday to the fourth Friday.
Starting.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Excuse me.
I think we may want to look at, I think we set the meeting schedule for the year, so we'll have to look either if we did it by resolution or motion. We'll have to maybe redo that for the entire year. No problem doing it, but just the mechanism.
So, but can we complete the motion now and then research that, and if it requires a resolution?
To bring it to the next
Bring it to the
meeting.
next meeting?
Yeah, and you could also continue a regular meeting at this regular meeting for next month if you wanted to, so.
We're hoping we can do it on the 4th.
We could, for discussion purposes, direct staff to bring us the necessary changes required to move the meeting to the 4th meeting of the month.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a public hearing requirement for a date change or
Not-
resolution.
you wouldn't need a hearing.
So maybe the motion can be amended to direct staff to bring us the necessary information to change the meeting to the 4th Friday of the month. How do you feel about that?
I say that.
Well, it's your motion.
I second that.
We have amendment to the original motion that we direct staff to bring us any supporting material that we need to handle in order to change our meeting date and by next month's meeting. And it's been seconded. Okay, we're going to vote on the amendment first. All those in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The original, thank you, passed unanimous. The original motion was to change our meeting date from the 3rd Friday to the 4th Friday of the month. This is a monthly board meeting, the Vineland Transit. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Now, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, now that's good.
procedural thing, so now it goes
No,
back
back to the 27th. No, it goes back to a different date.
it goes back to,
March 27th.
You were right.
I was right. You're right.
Did you know what we were going to do?
I have this little crystal ball. So
So you.
that takes an action to amend that to the 27th. 'cause-
Well, you haven't officially made a motion on this yet.
I sure did.
Oh, did you? Did somebody second it? Did we vote on it?
We sure did.
Oh, that's fine. We're just gonna have, our meeting is going to be on the
27th,
Yeah.
but for the record, the motion should be amended, and I'll make a motion to amend the January 16, 2015 motion for the Transit Board to place the following topics on the March 27, 2015 board meeting agenda for discussion, possible action. And I'm not going to talk about the other items, they're all in the action. So just take.
Excuse me, so February will still be on the third Friday,
No, fourth,
the February.
yeah,
Well, February does.
from now on, fourth meeting.
Is February affected or not?
Is there a fourth Friday in February?
Yes,
I don't think we can impact February because if we have a resolution change, we would need to take action at a public meeting to change that date. So if we can change it without resolution, it's not a problem. If we need to change the resolution, we have to come back to a meeting to change that. Or
Do we
call
have a
it.
resolution?
We can set one.
Okay, well,
Okay, so
Okay.
February stays the way it is.
Yeah.
well, February is in the 3rd, on the 20th, and then we'll make whatever changes we have to make that day, and we'll move it. We do have a motion on the table, or amendment to the motion on the table, and a second, I believe it was seconded?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, it was seconded.
I know you thought this was gonna be simple, and I also, on some level, know the world does not revolve around me on a very small level, I know that. But I won't be here on the 27th, so I just want to be clear that I'm not gonna be here for that initial part of the conversation. Okay.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Back to where we started. Okay, we are finally maybe going to get to our business items. Does anybody need to take a 5-minute break?
Sure, let's go for a moment.
All right, thank you very much. We are going to take a 5-minute break at town meeting, and we'll reconvene our meeting at 12:05. Thank you.
Are you going to stay, Gail? Okay, got it. I read that. I have just a little tiny I thought, yeah, your battery was right there, and I was going to grab it, plug it in.
It did take longer than I tried that past meetings.
So I figured at this point, I just went ahead and plugged mine
I'd like to
in.
get the meetings down to 2 hours.
I know, right? They kill me.
But this was a good meeting. I can see change.
So, aren't we gonna be,
Soon, I'm sure we will. Okay.
are they still gonna be doing?
Yeah, but they changed the order.
Yeah, because it's really gonna be last.
Yeah. Ta-da.
It's not contagious. Sometime. The last one. This legal date.
Very scary. That's what happened with
All right. We get 5 minutes? How's it going, Jeff?
Going good, Rick. Good to see this happening.
It is.
Kind of needs revision. It's not revision of the current updated projections.
How do we not record?
So we went down to the.
Basically started.
I had to push up the cart and they come out.
I'm just not, your hair looks cute. How do we not record?
She's so sick. Record?
Yeah. I don't know, I thought that was a day.
Yeah, this is really
So what's going on with parties today?
Yeah. But we need,
I'm tired.
You should be.
publicly documented.
Oh, is it SAR? I think it's just deleted today. It got moved? No, that's his sentence. I thought his plea deal was today and his sentencing was in February. I don't know. For sure.
Well, because they, they wanted to change the judge.
But there were two.
I know, it's
Yeah,
really two,
two.
will be two, but I'm thinking.
It's a public document
You
anyway.
probably know more than me.
Once it hits the book.
Well, I come to all the board meetings, I don't participate.
I'm just a,
I'm
I'm
glad
a,
you're.
Well, we want
with my motions.
Great.
The one that's,
Thank you.
the one that's in the packet is.
Okay, Bob,
Okay, so that was simplified.
see you next month.
All right, what, are you gonna leave? We're not done yet.
I know. Who will I leave?
Oh, yeah. You know, there's these legal ads you guys should run that say, if you want, agenda, call here.
He wanted it in.
Call here, and say,
That's not true, is it?
yeah, it's not true.
It was more about the color of the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, but you-
Investment in the web system.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so we're.
Oh, isn't that
It
pretty?
doesn't have
Yeah.
Which I always thought. Settled with $1.50. Okay, so we got
I mean, I would think every one of us.
Anyway, so I
$50,000.
share that.
And then we'll fix it when we.
Well, let's get it done, and if not, it's an issue.
All right, see you later.
Maybe like social.
Be careful with those.
Well, that's the, I mean, I thought he was going 90 here, and then the sentencing.
Yeah, no, I would say, yeah.
Like he agreed to 90 or something, so it was usually way to the second.
I think that will be something common. I just don't know about that.
I'm
And
just
she's
curious.
going to have
I'll
to
take anyway, just so you know.
Everson, correct?
He's my friend.
But I was on all day yesterday.
Then, no, it doesn't have to be, that's what I'm telling you up front. I'm not writing it on letters.
It's gonna be in the file.
Finally come on last night. I had it. I almost got to go to
You think that's a bad sign?
Yeah, I'm low key.
I did it on an
Are you the one on the flex? No, that's one of the operators.
Yeah, that's-
He rode all the way through the facility.
We were coming up, I'm going, is that the plan?
Oh, yeah, okay.
I've had her back.
We're gonna have Meg's in charge.
Without reading all that.
Jesse needs a designated press in the front because she can't.
It's not to me, it's to the public, to have the manager in the back talking about stuff.
You can get up, there's this thing called legs, you can stand up. No, but if you'd like, you can ask them to very public.
You thought it was there?
It's not hard.
I went and it wasn't there, and I said, oh, I can't. Let me get it back to the trainer.
Everything is according to Meg. It's not hard, we can make that work.
It's like trainers like a brother to me, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're on Facebook.
And seal it in and then.
So I can.
Make it look out for you. That's what I'm hoping the result's gonna be.
Oh, thanks. We gotta speak up, Jim.
What?
We gotta speak up.
Oh, louder for our audience, yeah. Yeah. Once I get over the sinus congestion, I'll be able to speak a little better. You know, the flu stuff going around. Cells in my sinuses. Not too bad, I mean, it doesn't, yeah, there's a lot of that stuff.
Thank you, Robin.
We gotta move it.
I'm going to call the meeting back to order, and we are going to proceed. There is one item under the chair's report that I forgot to mention, in that we did send out a request for proposal for a permanent, or what is it, a search, to find a search firm to put together our search for a permanent executive director. And so that is out. We are asking, oh, there you go, yeah. And is request for proposal 1-15 for executive search services. And that is, they're due back at the end of this month. Is that correct? 30. And so, you know, I don't know if we set up a procedure by the board to cover, what do we do when we get in the request for proposals? We had a recommendation from Washington Transit for a procedural thing that they did, and what they did was they had